Welcome everyone to the West University Historic Zone Advisory Board of June 10th, 2025. Um, a quick roll call. James Glock is present. Rick McDonald is absent. Rachel Sarah is present. Luce Bettnagel is not present. Greg Stoner is present. And Damon Turner is present. We have a quorum. We have some guests. I would like them to introduce themselves. We have one Zoom member, ERIKW. I would like that person to introduce themselves, please.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Eric, owner of 717 North 7th Avenue.
Thank you, Eric. And Matthew Scherer. How
Hi.
bad did I butcher that? So
Yeah, Matthew Shear. I work for First Choice Pools. I'm here with Krista Hunter, who's a client of ours.
for which item, please?
It is the 502 East 4th Street.
Very good. Thank you. All right. With that, I'd like to have the board to express that they have reviewed and are prepared to move on the legal action report and minutes of April 8th, 2025. Do I hear a motion and a second?
I'll motion that we approve.
Greg is approved. Do we have a second?
Damon seconds.
Damon seconds. Thank you. And Greg, I presume you're recording tonight?
I'm doing my best, yes.
Thank you. I'll try to move things in a pace that makes it easy for you. So we have Krista Hunter outside her property in the heat. I was going to take item 4C ahead of her, but I want to give her a break. So, I'm moving.
Okay,
Well, excuse me, ma'am. I'm moving on to then item 4A SD-025-00058/TC-RES 0425-01842 502 East 2nd Street, construction of a new residential pool.
Hey, Jim.
502
Mr.
4th
Chair,
Street, just a
Mr.
correction.
Chair, Mr. Chair, you skip one item, which is a call to the audience. We did not receive anything, but we should just call it for the record, please.
Let's continue on with item 4A, and I will take care of that at the next item. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Jim. Hey, Jim, this is Damon. We didn't vote to approve the legal action report. I believe we're
Oh,
supposed to.
shoot. I'm sorry. Well, okay. Can I get a vote on the legal action report, please?
Aye.
Rachel, Sarah, I.
Tim
Aye.
Glock, aye. All right. Thank you, Damon. I'm a little rattled because of this quorum issue that we're dealing with. So now that since we kind of upset the chief, is there a call to the audience?
We did not receive anything before the deadline, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry. Now moving on to reviews. Item 4A SD 0425-00058 TC RES 0425-01-842 502 East 4th Street. Construction of a new residential pool. Krista, and your team, you're on.
How can I help? I can show you the intended location. Behind me directly is the west wall and the setting sun of our property. This is our backyard. And behind me yet again is a half-round planter that will be removed. And the tiny pool spa will be in this area, hidden behind this barrier wall. No visibility to the street.
Okay. Does the board have any questions?
This will require tearing down the wall and rebuilding it.
No, there will be no tearing down any wall. We're going to remove this planter here and just build up dig into the ground and have a half above ground, half below grade.
Yeah.
Um,
So the construction equipment will fit through the gate, correct?
That's correct. The
Okay.
construction equipment will fit through the gate.
Great. That's it for my questions. Thanks.
Very good.
So are you going to use the existing wall to be like the barrier for the pool?
Yes.
No,
And
no.
No? Okay, Matt, go.
I can show a rendering of it if you'd like.
Please.
Okay, briefly, Matt, I'm sorry, briefly, Lou Spetnagel has joined the call. I was able to text him and get him on, so your quorum problem may be solved, hopefully.
Okay.
I am on the call audio, not via web. Apologies, have a elder parent having an issue.
Yep. Thank you, Lou, for
Lou.
joining us. We'll finish this item and we'll get to the one that requires you to help us maintain a quorum
Thank you, Lou.
shortly. What I would like is for some quick action on this particular item, if possible. So a motion to approve the desired pool construction would be the most expeditious way to move on.
I'll motion to approve as described in the documentation.
Thank you, Greg. Do we have a second?
Damon seconds.
Thank you, Damon, second. See if I get this right this time. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Oh,
Aye.
audio purposes,
Aye.
you gotta say aye. Okay, and your name. Aye, Jim Glock. So, anyway.
Hi, Rachel,
Damon.
Sarah.
Okay, for the record, it passes unanimously. Thank you so much, Krista and Matthew.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Moving
you,
on,
Krista, for texting Lou.
No worries. Thank you, Lou.
Lou, if you could hang on just for a moment, I would like to take 4C out of order. This is an item that we've had in the past relating to 717 North 7th Avenue, where I think staff can quickly handle that. But if you are on a time constraint, we'll go back to item 4B, where your presence is required to maintain a quorum. I had hoped that I could let the representative 4C get off the.
Jim, I appreciate that, Jim, but I'm okay waiting.
Okay, all right.
That way Ben
Fantastic.
can get
Okay,
some
then
air
I'm
conditioning.
gonna jump
And-
off. If you guys want me
Okay.
to jump back on, ask Ben to call me when you guys
Well,
wrap up.
Well,
And then
Rachel,
Lou can go.
Rachel, we'd like you to stay on board, even though you're recusing yourself from this, in case there's questions in relation to the project.
Hey,
Oh, I
Jim,
didn't think I was allowed.
No, Mr. Chair, she cannot answer
Yeah.
any question related to this.
Oh, I'm
project.
sorry that. Does
Yeah.
she have to, leave?
I can't listen,
leave.
I can't anything. I gotta be gone.
She-
So I'm
she
gonna
needs
leave
to
the
get
meeting,
off.
and if you guys need me back on, I will be available.
We will need you back on.
Okay, then just, Ben, if you could please call me when you guys wrap up your item, and then I'll jump back on.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hey,
Okay,
Jim, real quick. This is Matthew Shear with working with Krista. Are we good to go for the meeting? Are we?
Yes, you're done.
Oh.
You and Krista are done. Thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you, sir. Have a nice night.
Okay, we're on to item 4B, SD 0525007779 TC RES 0124060025 317 East First Street, removal of an existing porch and carport, construction of a new garage in place of the carport with second-story bedroom and deck addition. New addition to guest house. Ben, you're on. You're muted, of course. You're muted, Ben.
Oh, hold on. We need to
Okay,
make
there we
him
go.
to be.
Thank you, everybody. I just appreciate the
Wait,
quorum.
wait. Sorry, Michael. What
No,
were you-
no, I'm fine, Jim. I'm fine. Thank you.
I am sitting in 100-degree weather because last July, the calamity that struck our neighborhood, struck our home and knocked a 50-foot tree onto our guest house, bathroom and kitchen, knocking out our electricity. So this office doesn't have electricity together with half our house. So I appreciate your help moving this forward. It's kind of been a long haul for us. I'll present kind of in a couple different parts. The first part relates to the disaster that I talked to you about. Our beautiful Arizona cypress tree fell over in July and crunched our bathroom and kitchen. So the part of the permit we're requesting is to reconstruct that exactly in the same footprint that was there before. A few tweaks to the interior, including updating the windows and doors to be appropriate for the code of the neighborhood. But apart from that, it's kind of straightforward. It's there on the plan. The second part of it is replacing our existing carport and breezeway with an enclosed garage, and on top of the garage, a studio. It's something we've been planning for a long time, and it just coincided with the disaster, so we lumped them together. We also have a third component, which is an 8-foot wall around our outdoor living room. We live in a small cottage, so we make use of indoor and outdoor living, and we wanted to request the 8-foot wall to provide some privacy for our outdoor living space. A little higher than typical, but it will be unattached to the historic home. And that's really the main components of the project. I've gone through this process a few times, including our roof last year and a fence. Sorry, my dog is making noise. And so I think it's a beautiful design. We're excited to enhance the property and have appreciate your support. Any questions?
So may I ask whether board members need to have any of the material associated with the agenda presented at this time, or are they comfortable acting with their foreknowledge of it and not or have any questions of any details associated with has been presented? From what I reviewed, I'm prepared to accept it, but I, of course, as chair, can't make a motion. But I have it up on my screen. If I can share, given share screen rights, I can share it for fellow board members should they have an interest in seeing it. And Lou, you're going to have to.
I had reviewed all of these in advance of the meeting with the intention
Okay.
of having been here today, so we should
Very
be good.
Okay, thank you, Lou. So, what's the board's pleasure? I'm prepared to accept the motion to accept as prepared, but if there's an interest in
Mr. Chair,
having presentation, I'm happy to do so. Yes, Mr. Taku.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, fences are allowed 6 feet on the side in the back. This application is asking for an 8-foot wall, which is past what is required by code. The board can recommend approval of the 8-foot wall based on the fact that the board finds or the applicant can present to the board that there are similar 8-foot wall within the development zone. If not, if the board approves this, it's going to be setting the precedent for other 8-foot walls that will come along. So I'm just putting this out there for the board. So you should know that there's an issue. The board does not have the authority to waive the wall height. The board can waive the setback. So the wall height, you can still have an 8-foot wall, but it needs to show proof that similar 8-foot tall walls exist within the development zone, and then the board can make a decision based on that. If not, the board will be setting a precedent of 8-foot walls within the preservation zone.
So,
The whole zone or just this development zone, Michael?
The development zone. Your
Thank you.
review is limited to your development zone. So we review cases based on your development zone.
What I can say to you, Michael, and to the board, the existing fence that is there, as well as the carport and breezeway, was built in the 80s. And the existing fence that is there is 8 feet. So it's to replicate what is there now. And as I said before, a different way to think about it is just the modern way people live is indoor, outdoor. And as I said, we live in a small cottage, 1,100 square feet. So we spend a lot of time outdoors. It is our living room. And to have people peeking their heads over our fence, and they can because our house sits about 2 feet lower from our neighbors. It just is, it loses what already is there. And I'd like to preserve what is there. And it's also a limited section of it, just around, as I said, our outdoor living room.
Jim, this is Damon. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked at the plans. I'm not sure. I guess I'm delinquent and everyone else looked at them before the meeting, but I'm not sure why we wouldn't have the applicant actually show us the design.
And I'm prepared to show the design. I have it up on my screen if I can be given some rights to
Sure.
share screen.
And I'll just describe it. So along our
Stand
carport-
by, Ben. Stand by, Ben.
Give
Please.
your
Okay.
co-host now, you can share your screen.
Get rusty at this, so I think. Oh, friggin'. Zoom has changed their screen sharing. Are people able to see the image?
Yes.
No, okay. So this is sheet 1. And so the property is across the street from Anza Park.
Catalina.
There, here's the building. If you can, I don't know if my cursor shows. So,
Your cursor does show.
okay, the existing house, east elevation. To me, it looks like south elevation. The proposed north elevation. I can't quite, it's too bad. Ben, can you describe,
Sure.
can you see what we're seeing?
Yeah, I can. So
I
the
need to
north
zoom in?
elevation is
So where, I guess what's most important is where is this 8-foot?
the fence, yeah. So why don't you go to the site plan at the top?
This
And
one?
you can see right
Want me
there,
to zoom in? Stand by.
the main house is connected by a breezeway. We have an existing breezeway and a carport. So that's not changing as far as what you'll see from the top down. There's a grapefruit tree there. And so the fence we're talking about, you can see it says proposed 8-foot wall. It goes around that grapefruit tree and then so it will come from the garage, and then the existing fence does the same thing, and it just encloses itself around that grapefruit tree so people can't peek in our house from Herbert Avenue
Ben,
into our living room is what it is.
Ben, do some of the subsequent photos show that 8-foot fence of the
Yes,
existing
yes,
condition?
if you scroll
Can I scroll
down,
down, please? Stand by.
if you scroll down, you'll see the photographs of the existing, it's a wooden fence. It's been there since the 1980s. It's right there. So it's, you see the carport with a car in it. To the right of it is an 8-foot fence. It's been there since 1990 about. And it'll be exactly the same, except it'll be stuck masonry block wall
Okay,
to match the rest of it.
so this looks like 2 fences, a fence and then a fence behind it, or is it a fence with a fence on top?
It's kind of it's two sections of a fence. The inside is one seamless fence that's 8 feet, but from the exterior, it's a double sort of sided fence.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, guys, but this is the normal way that we go through this is that the applicant walks us through the entire project with the plans up. Can we do that, please?
Well, the challenge is that Rachel Sarah is the architect of record and she has to recuse herself for this. So Ben is struggling to handle this on his own.
No, I don't think
And,
Ben
and
is
I understand
struggling,
that,
but-
and
no,
I
Ben-
understand you know that. So let's let Ben walk us through. So
Yeah, and I don't think it's fair to say Ben is struggling. He did a summary of it earlier. It's just that you didn't have the plans up. So Ben, if you could just walk us through the proposed project.
Okay, I don't know who has control of the screen. I'm happy to.
I do, Ben. Just tell me what page you want me to go to.
Okay, let's just start at the top and walk down it. So as I said, we had a big, beautiful tree that fell over onto our guest house. You can see that on the site plan. It's sectioned off part. So look at the site plan, and the part that was crunched was the guest house kitchen and bath. Okay.
Right. Tell me when I get to the site plan. What do you
It was
consider
at
the
the
site
top.
plan?
It's the very first diagram at the top.
Okay.
Okay. It shows all the pieces of the building on the property.
Okay. And you want
Okay,
me to
so to give the bird's eye perspective, it's really three components that we're talking about. It's to replace the guest house, bathroom, and kitchen, which was demolished by a tree falling on it. The second is to replace the existing carport and breezeway connecting the guest house to the main house. And the third component is to change the existing 8-foot wooden wall to a masonry wall. And that is it. You can scroll down a little bit. I'll talk about kind of, it's kind of straightforward. We're changing a carport into a garage. So it's enclosed with a garage door. And on top of it sits a studio apartment, which is where our teenage son will be living. We need an extra bathroom because we only have one. And so we'll have a beautiful stairwell going up to it with it'll be a deck balcony above it. Essentially, it's this existing breezeway, but with a balcony on top now. And we have put in, the beautiful paneled windows, doors, considered the architectural.
Ben, may I stop you for a second and ask you a few questions, Ben?
Yeah.
So the part of the property that was damaged by the tree falling was it a contributing structure or a non-contributing structure?
No, it was not. It was an addition that was put in about 1990.
Okay, gotcha. And you're calling it a guest house, but it's actually an addition. It's not a separate structure.
It's a separate structure from the main house.
The breezeway physically connects them, or?
Technically, yes, we have toothpicks connecting them, but not really. I mean, it's a breezeway between two buildings.
Okay, understood. And the existing structure, the one that was damaged, what's the height of it?
Approximate the total height. It's on the document. We're not changing what was there before.
But the apartment that you're putting over the new garage is additional height relative to the old structure?
Okay, I haven't been calling that apartment studio, but it is, so the main structure you can see there has a roof line that's about 23 feet 4 inches. And the roof line will be below that of the studio, which will rest at 22 feet.
I see.
So Rachel Sarah is the architect. I chose her because she's familiar with all these codes, and I am as well. I work in real estate. So to the best of my knowledge, we have followed everything to the T, with the one exception being the request of an 8-foot limited wall around my outdoor living room for additional privacy. And I recognize that is an extra ask. And I just humbly request of it so that we don't have homeless people wandering through, peeking their heads over.
I think the other thing that the board should be aware of is the height of the secondary structure that you're proposing is relatively high relative to the main structure. I think your first south elevation that's shown in these plans show those two buildings in context with each other. I think the design guides would say that you want accessory structures to be, I think it's 12 feet or less in height. And so it's kind of a case by case basis if we're to accept accessory structures like this that might compete in scale with the main structure. So that's something that the board should be aware of and comment on specifically.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And if I
And
may speak to
May I
that,
ask another thing, Ben? When as you continue to walk through design, can you talk about the materials of everything, including the new structures, the wall, the details we can see, the roof, and the windows and doors?
sure. So,
Thank you.
it's gonna match the existing building that is there now. We have, the guest house, which is frame and stucco, so we will match that. It will look, match the same color. The roof, on the main house is a concrete tile that we put on last year. And the guest house, we also got permitted and put on a shingle that is called Painted Desert by Tomco, I believe. It was also approved, and we will use the same roofing material for that. The windows you can see detailed are in accord with the manner that is required of this neighborhood, including the panels. They'll be wood framed. The stairwell will be metal. It'll be similar to the fence in our front yard, which we also got permitted last year. We'll be using the same metal worker. I'm a meticulous designer myself. I've spent a lot of time in this home, and I know the space very well, and I've done a very good job taking care of this home. It's a labor of love. And your question about the height of it, I didn't recognize that as being a problem, considering it would be lower than the main house. The other component of that is from the south is the alley, and it's not really a place people are really viewing the home. From the side, it's Herbert Avenue, and so it's not going to obstruct the building itself, the main house. The main area where people will see it from the front will be on the side to the left. And on Herbert Avenue, our neighbors 2 doors down have a structure that is about 2 feet taller. And then one house down from them, also on Herbert, they also have a 2-foot structure that is very similar in height. And I don't know, in my humble opinion, it's a nice design.
Yeah, I wasn't casting judgment on the design. I'm just giving the board guidance on the decisions we're supposed to make and the commentary we're supposed to provide as part of the meeting, and how we're supposed to, inform some of that for the record. Okay, and so it sounds like all the materials that I heard are in accordance with our design guidelines, which of course isn't a surprise since Rachel knows what our guides are. The only thing left, I guess, is the 8-foot wall to discuss. And I'm not sure. I think Desiree or Michael may have to comment on this. I don't know if you're allowed to use your own property as a precedent for a wall, for a fence height.
For fences height, you have to show that similar fences exist within your development zone, not just use your fence as a precedent. If
Yeah,
that
that's my question is, I mean, obviously his house is in his development zone, but is he allowed to use his own house as the precedent?
No, you cannot use his fence. In this case that you're discussing, he has to show some other 8-foot fences that exist within the development zone. He cannot use an existing fence on the property to say that this is what I am using as a precedent. He has to show it within the development zone.
Okay.
So Damon, you raise, again, the fence height may be problematic, and I think, Michael, you pointed out that it's really not under our purview to approve a fence height, and then in the same breath you said that if we approved it, we'd establish a precedent. So can we consider this proposal and leave the fence height out of our proposal and let it be handled through another means?
Mr. Chair, let me restate what I said. I did say that the board cannot waive the fence height, but the board, with the applicant showing you example of existing fences within the development zone, based on that, the board can approve a higher fence. That's what I said.
Yeah, I think what Michael's saying is we can verify if the applicant were to show the proof, we can kind of verify that, yeah, there are other 8-foot fences in this development zone, and therefore we can accept it. But
So,
without that, we can't accept it.
okay, so to,
Or the board can approve the other things and put a condition that the applicant should provide evidence of similar fences within the development zone. Then that can be a condition of approval, Mr. Chair.
so,
Michael, can I ask a
wait,
question about?
Ben, let me ask a clarifying question first, please. Can we leave the fence height out? I mean, specifically say the fence height, everything is approved except for the fence height, and he can move forward. Because as he said, he's living in 100-degree weather right now without air conditioning, and that comes back to us separately. Can that be done?
Yes, you can do that.
No, Michael, let me finish my thought, please.
Oh.
And so that he can move forward, and that, yes, he doesn't get to do an 8-foot fence, but he can do everything else and then he comes back through after he and his team provide evidence and make the case for the 8-foot fence.
Yes, that can be done, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just throw out one more possibility, one more option for you all to consider, is for staff, that to be delegated to staff. So if you would like staff to verify, work with the applicant to see other heights in the development zone, we can work with the applicant to either approve that, just to make it easier so they don't have to come back to a meeting, right, which takes extra time. Just something to consider. It's up to you.
Thank you, Desiree.
Thank you, Desiree, and I'll leave that to board members. As chair, I'm not making this motion, but what I'm striving to do is to move the project along. The 8-foot fence is obviously somewhat problematic, although I've seen, if you came to my alley, I have a few neighbors who have been able to get 8-foot fences, and I'm also sympathetic to the fact that this is not the front face that one would see from a historic preservation perspective as they're driving down the streets. This is not the way that this particular property was established as a contributing property, that we could probably allow staff to do that. So thank you, Desiree, for making that suggestion to help streamline this, but I'll leave it to the board members to um, find their way through this. So Ben,
Desiree, how could we phrase that then for a recommendation that we can vote on? Would it be, you know, the 8-foot wall is contingent on the applicant working with what? With the city?
With historic preservation staff to ensure that other examples of, you know, that there's a pattern of 8-foot walls in the development zone. It's kind of a conditional approval. And if we find that, you know, there aren't examples, then staff wouldn't approve that 8-foot fence, but we could approve 6 feet.
but what I want to avoid, Desiree, is a hampering on Ben's ability to move forward with the rest of the work. I don't want the wall to hamper his ability to get this thing approved, pending the wall approval. I want him to be able to move. Excuse me, Ben, let me finish, please.
Yeah.
I want him to be able to move forward with his project, and the wall can be set aside for another day. And so maybe it's I don't know how to do that for the benefit of the director's approval letter and for our subsequent historic review bodies that are going to be looking at this, to look at it and to move it forward. And so I would like to think that we just take the wall, we not approve the wall, and that he does have to come back through a separate process for it so that he can move forward with the rest of his project, as opposed to tying it up with a staff issue that might tie up the whole thing. So unless there's a way to segregate the wall from the rest and leaving it up to staff, I don't know if I'm comfortable in accepting a motion of that nature, but I guess I got to accept the motion if the motion's made. So, and I'm just kind of pondering this. And Damon, I look to you. You're the kind of the sage when it comes to this kind of stuff. So,
Well, I think because the plans include the wall, we have to comment on the wall.
Right.
So I guess, does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss on the board other than the wall at this point, or is everybody comfortable with the rest of the design?
I'm comfortable with the rest of the design personally.
Yeah, I'm comfortable as well.
Okay, in that case, I'll suggest that we make a motion. It seemed like, Greg, you were kind of preparing to do so. Are you prepared to do so?
Yeah,
If not,
it's
I
got
can,
that
if not, I can take a cut.
it got derailed, but I think if we are going to exclude the 8-foot wall from the motion, then simply it would be I would like to move that we approve the plans as presented with the exception of the 8-foot wall height.
Okay, I could second that motion.
Very good. So we have a motion by Greg, a second by Damon. Any further discussion? And Ben and others can weigh in. Ben, I think you understand the conundrum we're addressing, so it might be best to deal with the wall another day.
That's
So you
fine.
can get your air conditioning working
Yes,
quickly.
I will take it for another day, but I appreciate it. Thank you all.
All right. Any other discussion? Lou,
No,
you're good? Okay.
I'm good.
With all that, please signify by saying aye with your name. I, Jim Glock.
All right, Damon.
Hi, Greg.
I lose.
Very good. Thank you. I mean, we're being recorded, so this is the way that we document our approval. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
I'm going to be moving on. We've been keeping our next, I wanted to move this next item to the beginning of the agenda. If someone could call Rachel to get on the board, we can let Lou
I just called Rachel.
carry on to where you are. But Lou, hang on until Rachel signs on. And in the meantime, we're going to be moving on to item 4C. SD 0823000090 TC-RES 0923078005 CE VIO 11240427 717th North 7th Avenue. Main house, replace all existing doors and windows, re-stucco exterior, replace roof, duplex units, replace all exterior doors and windows covering the brick wall with stucco. Full review, contributing resource, estimated time 30 minutes. With that,
I'm here.
Michael thank you, Rachel. So, Lou, if you have to leave, so be it. But otherwise, stick around. This might be interesting. Michael.
I'll stay on. Thank you.
Michael or Desiree, I'd like you to perhaps synopsize what our action is. All of you are familiar with this particular property. We sent the owner around the block on this, thinking that the property that was stuccoed after we said not to stucco it, and they stuccoed it anyway, was a contributing structure. Turns out that it wasn't. And so with that, I'll leave it to whomever is going to get us to what we need to actually move on at this point in time, because we've approved everything else, but are dealing with the stuccoing of the brick duplex. So Desiree or Michael,
Yes.
do you want to walk us through?
Desiree is going to take a lead on this one.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes, thank you all. So this one is a bit complex. I'm going to just share a little bit of the history and then go over what you have before you today to consider. So the item before you is a full historic review for rehabilitation and alterations of a single family residence at the front of a parcel and a rear duplex at the rear of the parcel at 717 North 7th Avenue. The main house is a contributor to the district, while the rear duplex is not a contributor. So the rear duplex was recently reclassified as a non-contributing resource to the West University Historic Zone after research indicated that the building was constructed outside of the period of significance for the district. So when this case first came before you, it was in November of 2023. You reviewed it, then PRS reviewed it in December of 2023, making recommendations to the PDSD planning director, who issued a decision letter at that time in January of 2024 and approved the project with certain conditions. So work has since been completed on the property. Several of the conditions that were originally included in that decision letter were not met. So the duplex's exposed brick was covered with stucco, and the duplex's porch roofs were clad with corrugated rusted steel rather than clay tile as was a condition. And then the third condition was the replacement doors on the rear detached duplex shall have a 6 light craftsman style. They were replaced with 3 light doors. So that's the rear duplex. So mostly we're talking about the rear duplex. However, the plans do include elevations for the main house. So I do have some questions about the main house, and I just want to ensure that whatever we are approving, includes that we include anything that additional that may have changed for the front of the house too. So I'm going to ask you probably some questions, Eric. But first we can start with the duplex, since we have a little bit more clarity on that. So this is the duplex before it was stuccoed. As you can see, it was brick, and there were original wood windows, some wood doors. The new plans, these are the new plans for the duplex. And so these plans reflect the as-built conditions, right? So it says, here we have the corrugated roof, right? So those were, slate tile, now they're corrugated roof. There was stucco, so it does label the stucco here. The other thing, it does say new double hung windows. One thing to note, it doesn't note the material, so that would be something we would want to add here. And then the doors, as I mentioned, aren't those 6 light doors, so there's the 3 lights. So these are the elevations for the duplex. And there are actually also some photos of the duplex that were included in the updated evaluation form for the National Register, which again found that it was no longer contributing. So here are some photos just to give you a better sense. So one question for you, Eric, do you know the material of these windows?
Yeah, the windows are wood. The interior, you can tell more so that they're wood, and I can provide pictures for you if you need on that. But the windows are wood throughout the property.
Okay, thank you. So that's the duplex. This was before. So my questions about sorry, let's go back to the plans. About the main house. So this is the main house. Here's the front. So one of the original conditions for the main house, and again, the main house is still considered a contributor, was that the door on the front of the main house and the one on the south side would have a 6 light craftsman style door. So here it doesn't reflect that. So I was just wanted to know from you, does this image reflect, the current state of the door?
No, what's currently on there is a 6 light craftsman door. However, from my understanding, it is interior core is wood, the exterior is fiberglass. So I believe that's both this front door and there's one on the south elevation. So I believe the style matches what is needed, but they are not wood doors. So I'm of the understanding that those will need to be replaced.
Okay, so we would just, we can work with you. We would just need the, subject to any changes that the board wants to recommend, but we would just want these drawings to reflect what is actually going to be, installed and approved. So just to clarify, the door then would be 6 light, because right now it looks to be either solid or, 4 lights.
Yeah, it is. It's currently 6 lights.
Okay. And then my only other question about the main house then is there was a condition that the house shall be painted the same color as it was. So it looked to be like a white kind of an off-white color. Is that still the plan?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the color of the house was before the renovations were completed. But it is still that light white off-white color. Same color as I believe the duplex pictures you showed earlier.
Okay. And then the roof shingles, it says new roof shingles. Do you know the material? Is that asphalt?
Yes, it's asphalt shingles.
Okay. And then also there are new new double hung windows? Are those wood?
Yep. And they're all wood. Yep.
Okay. Because I don't think the windows were in the original approval. So just want to make sure that we're capturing everything that needs to be captured today in this, whatever motion is ultimately made. So following the work being completed, the property was sold and the new owners are here, Eric. And he's also assumed ownership of this permit application. So the project is coming back to the board today with these plans showing the duplex as built with the stucco exterior and the corrugated steel roofs at the porches. So today you can recommend approval with conditions, or denial. You could also continue the item to a future meeting. That's my presentation. Eric, if you would like to add anything, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I think everyone's aware of this property, and hopefully you guys come at it now with me as a new owner, with leaving the previous stuff in the past. I do want to do everything according to the guidelines and make sure that the board is satisfied with the work that's done. That being said, I think you all are aware that the duplex has been found to be a non-contributing property built after 1940. So my understanding is that the same historic guidelines for certain things don't apply there. That would be on the corrugated metal roof. I obviously still need approval on that, but that it doesn't need to be the clay tiles that was there because it's not historic. The corrugated metal roof there now matches the casita. So there are 4 buildings on that property. There's the main house, there's a laundry building, there's a casita, and then there's the duplex. So the casita was built in the 1980s, and that one's got the corrugated metal overhang on it. And that's what matches what was put on the duplex, both in the front and the back there. And then in terms of the stucco, again, it's no longer a contributing property. I know you guys are all familiar with the reasons why the stucco was done, and it kind of sounds like it was lucked into the fact that it is a non-contributing property. However, that is the case now, so we're hopeful that that stucco can remain as is. Again, that stucco matches the casita and the laundry building, as well as the main house that's there. So they all have a very similar exterior look and feel and color. In terms of the doors, as I mentioned, the 2 main house doors, from what I can tell, they seem to be wood interior and fiberglass exterior. They are 6 light, and then the duplex is per the photos that Desiree showed, is the 3 light, and those are fiberglass doors, and those match with what's on the laundry building as well as what's on the casita, and all 3 of those are non-contributing property, and none of those doors can be seen from the street. So that's kind of where things stand from what I'm aware.
Thank you, Eric.
Hey, this is Dan. Can I ask Desiree a question, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask whether board members had questions, so you jumped me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think we may be miscommunicating on the doors a little bit, and I'm not sure if maybe just like my language is a little bit different, but I think I don't fully recall back to November of 23, but I think what we would have asked for when we said a 6 light craftsman style, I think what we mean by that is 6 small glass windows over, around the top of the door, on the top half of the door, or the top third of the door. And I think when you guys are saying 6 light and 3 light, you're referring to what I would call like a 6 panel or a 3 panel door.
So
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry if there's confusion there. The duplex doors, which are those 3, so that's what would be a 3 panel. The 6 light craftsman is what you're talking about in terms of the 6 small windows across the top, and that's
Gotcha.
what's currently on the structure, the main house.
Okay, got it. Okay, and just to like, you did a good job recapping, and I can try to explain a little bit about why we care about what we care about. But Michael and Desiree might have to help a little bit. But I think, all this happened because there was confusion about that duplex being contributing. But yeah, if it's a non-contributing structure, which it's now clear that it is, we wouldn't have ever really cared about some of those architectural details. Our job is to protect the architectural details on the contributing structures. So things like the clay tiles or the finish on the exterior, those are a lot less important to this board once we know it's not contributing. So I don't think there's any issue with the corrugated metal, at least in my opinion, over the doors or the stucco over the brick, given that it's not contributing. With respect to windows and doors, we normally do require wood or wood or steel for windows and doors, regardless of whether or not it's a contributing structure. And I think you were nice enough to point out that the doors on the duplex are apparently 3 panel fiberglass. We can talk about whether or not we want to accept that. It would sort of be by exception. To be honest with you, I personally don't really take exception to it, given that it's a secondary structure in the back that you can't see and is non-contributing. And with respect to the door on the main house, I think what we would normally ask for is some kind of craftsman style, preferably like a 6 light, like it sounds like it has in wood. I think you pointed out that maybe it's fiberglass.
Yeah, I didn't do the install, but from what I can tell or what it looks like to me, it sounds like it's fiberglass exterior with the interior wood core.
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand.
I'm sorry, you're talking about the front door of the contributing structure.
Correct. The front door of the contributing structure, and then it also has a door on the south side, which you might consider the back door, but it's on the the left side of the property.
And your estimation is those are wood doors with fiberglass catting on the exterior and wood on
I
the
believe
interior?
I'm not trying to pass them off as wood doors. I believe they're more or less fiberglass doors that have a wood interior.
And if you read our design guidelines, and Damon knows them, he's got an eidetic memory, so we allow aluminum metal clad wood doors with the wood being on the inside and metal being on the outside. And so what you're telling us is that it's fiberglass on the outside and wood on the inside, which I've never heard fiberglass doors being built like that. But that's here nor there. I'm going to leave it to the board on what to deal with this. Are they painted, or is it still the fiberglass coloring that we see?
No, they're painted a brown. I don't know if someone wants to give me share rights, or someone if just wants to Google it. It's a picture on Zillow. First picture that comes up will show you what the doors look like there. So you can see that they're the 6-panel Craftsman. And
I just made you co-host, so if you want to share, you can share.
okay. Yeah.
We are just and Damon is, again, he's far more masterful at explaining this detail than I. But we are understanding that Arizona climate wreaks havoc on wood, and so we have and with the acceptance of the historic preservation offices at SHPO and whatnot, have accepted metal clad wood doors, and so that's why Damon was referencing that. We have not been all that keen on or seen necessarily, to my understanding, and again, those who know better should chime in, about fiberglass and vinyl as an exterior product. Although, from my personal opinion, if you're painting it, which I paint, my wood door, what's underneath the paint isn't as problematic to me, but I will leave it to the rest of the board. Again, I'm chairing, I can't make motions, but
I think what
my view
he's
is
saying,
that it isn't as offensive, but so
I think what he's saying, Jim, is it's a wood core door with a fiberglass exterior, not a clad door, which is a little different.
do they make such things? Okay, I haven't run into those, but I'm not doing a lot of building these days, so that's fine. Excuse my ignorance.
And I'm operating off of a small piece of advertising material that I found in the house when we purchased it.
Okay.
So my information is limited as well.
Yeah. So I think the board should address two things. One is the doors on the duplex in the back, which are fiberglass, and whether or not we accept that. Normally, we would require them to be wood. And then also the door on the main house, which is fiberglass, which we would normally expect to be wood.
And then I have to ask Desiree, do we need to act on the stuccoing
For the duplex?
on the duplex?
Yes.
It's in the plans. So I mean, I think right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Desiree, but if we just want to accept all this as it is, we could just say we accept the plans as they are. I mean, I think the plans require a
Yes.
little bit of updating, which Desiree was pointing out. But we could say we accept the plans as they are with the following updates. And then we would be accepting the stucco, which I think we should accept since it's non-contributing structure.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Damon. You're a better parliamentarian than I. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I'm going to make a suggestion. I don't want to dominate this too much, and also thanks to the applicant for trying to do the right thing here. I would, I think, argue that we should allow them to leave the fiberglass doors on the duplex. We wouldn't normally do so, but given that it's a non-contributing structure and given that they're already there and given all the pain and suffering that's happened already, it seems to me like a lot to ask the applicant to change those doors. I think the main house is worth discussing further. In this picture, that door looks fine to me. I'll admit I'm on my phone right now, so I can't really see it super well. I also haven't paid a huge amount of attention, but I do walk down 7th Avenue all the time, and I didn't notice a door sticking out like a sore thumb. So I suspect in real life, this door looks appropriate to the property, but I haven't, gone and scrutinized it.
And it appears as though all the doors have been painted, whatever surface they are, be it whether they're fiberglass, as you saw from your spec sheet, or whether they're actual wood doors, or whether they're aluminum clad doors. It sounds like a coat of paint's been put on them to make them match the trim.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not overly familiar with the guidelines, but I do, there are some instances where it talks about green materials, and I do think, to your point, the weather in Arizona does a lot of damage to the wood doors. So
yeah, but vinyl and fiberglass are just I mean, it took us a long time to get around to accepting aluminum and or metal clad wood, so bear with us.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, a
sure.
protected, just for, based on my experience, the door on my house is, I think, original and it faces south. But if it's protected from the sun and water, the wood will last a long time.
Yeah.
Probably longer than fiberglass, just due
Yeah.
to the
Yeah, I think about it.
decomposition of the plastic material in our
Right.
temperatures.
Yeah, fiberglass and vinyl are not going to last any longer in the sun. So I don't think it's really a green standpoint.
Yeah, so I think the most, this is again my opinion, I'm not speaking for the board, but I think the most we should ask of the applicant would be to replace the main structure, the main house door with a wooden 6-light Craftsman style door. That's the most I think we should ask. But I'm not saying we necessarily should ask that.
And Damon, that could be a metal clad wood door, right? I mean,
I don't have a memory. Rachel probably knows this. I'm not familiar with any metal clad wood doors. I think
that's windows that we're dealing with.
That's windows.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Where they come regularly. There may be some.
Wood, you can have wood clad doors too. It's usually an aluminum. So why they do the aluminum clad wood is because it gives you a thermal break between the inside and the outside.
Okay.
And so it's not transferring. So if the whole window was aluminum or the whole window was wood, the heat can transfer more readily through that material. So the idea why those developed was to have a thermal break in material so that the temperature couldn't transfer through. And clearly, obviously, so a wood clad window, what that is a mostly wood window, and then it has a metal frame on the exterior to protect it from weathering.
Okay.
So, but you're saying they make doors like that as well, Rachel?
Yes, they do make doors that are wood clad as well.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Well, I'm gonna leave it to board members on what to do. I think we're 3/4 of the way there, if not further. A motion would be entertained. We have, I think, 3 items. Desiree, help me. Stuck wing, doors on the rear, and door in the front to address.
I would, sorry to cut you off. Because the door is painted, I think it's more okay to maybe have a discussion of using a non-conventional material that we would approve. And I think if we do approve it, that needs to be stated that you are not seeing what that material is, because we want to not go down this road of setting a precedent.
Very good. Okay.
Of that being visible.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we do that, everybody's gonna start saying they want fiberglass doors that they can
That's what I'm
paint.
worried about. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
and
worried
it-
about.
and-
So
and
as
and
much as
I think
this has been a pain
Yeah.
up and down for everybody involved, I am worried about setting a precedent on a historic house having a fiberglass door.
Yeah, and I think the reason they would do that is that they're cheaper. I think the other thing that might be worth discussing is whether or not the proportions on the door are the same as a wood door. I can't really tell from the picture again because I'm looking at it on a phone. I'm
Right,
zooming
like
in,
the
but-
simulated light. Yeah, I think that is something that also comes, we don't seem to do stickler on this of simulated and divided lights. I know other historic boards are really picky about that. So. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess the easiest thing for us to do is to ask the applicant to replace the door with a wooden 6-light craftsman style door.
Well,
I'm
wood or
trying
wood
to-
clad,
Wood or
because they
wood
could
clad,
still do
yeah,
a metal
yeah.
door or a
Yeah.
wood door that has the metal cladding on the exterior.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm trying to limit the pain here by not also asking the applicant to replace the doors on the duplex in the back.
Yes, and I would agree with that. I think that I would be open to allowing those to remain as they are, but not the one on the contributing property.
And we are talking only the street facing door, not the
Correct.
contributing.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
it sounds like
6-light.
there's a side door also. I think
There is. And
Yeah,
it's an
w-
identical door.
I see. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I'm gonna make a motion.
Thank you, Damon.
I'd like to make the motion that we accept these plans as they are with the corrections noted by Desiree. I think it was that we wanted the materiality on the duplex windows called out as wood windows. And then there's a few exceptions that I think it's important to note for the record. One of the exceptions is that we're going to allow fiberglass for the 2 doors on the duplex and the 1 side door on the main structure. And then we'd like the plans to reflect that the main door be wood or wood clad and be a 6-light craftsman style door, which is of course going to require the applicant to replace the front door on this house. That's my motion.
Before I ask for a second, Damon, for the fiberglass doors, it sounds like they're painted. Can we specify that the fiberglass is painted?
Yes.
Just so that, okay, could
Yep.
you
Yep.
restate your motion? I mean, could that be
Yeah,
added to
can-
the motion
yeah,
without
I
me
think Greg is-
complicating the parliamentarianism associated with that? So,
Yes, I accept that amendment to my motion.
well, it wasn't, no, let's not make it formal. So your motion includes that the fiberglass doors that we're accepting are to have a coat of paint on them. So
Yes.
without, I mean, for poor Greg who's making these notes, when the motion is written, it's going to state that we accept the fiberglass doors as painted, as acceptable to us. Did I just
Yep.
make things
And-
more complicated?
And
So-
just for clarity, there are 2 rear doors on each duplex too. So there's the
Right.
4 doors, and the front doors is what you see here on the left. The back door is
Right.
what you see on the right.
It's the front door, Eric, that I think Damon's motion is causing.
Okay.
I think Eric's pointing out that I thought there were 2 doors in the duplex and there's actually
Yeah.
4 doors.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
So we also need to amend my motion to.
Actually, why don't you restate your motion, Damon, and then we'll.
Wait,
Can
before
I
you do
have-
that, I have
Okay,
a question
Desiree?
too.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
sorry, I'm not.
Go ahead, Desiree.
As a parliamentarian,
I-
so go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to know one thing. So in looking at these plans, actually there it says, so the window material says clad wood double hung. So Eric, I guess we just need clarity if they're true wood windows or aluminum clad wood windows.
I'm gonna
Is
have to
that?
get,
that's
I'm gonna
different.
have to get
Yeah,
an expert on that, because
okay.
I think they just
If
from
you
the
go
pictures
look at them and they look like metal on the outside and wood on the inside, that's a metal clad. If it looks like wood on the inside and the outside, that's just wood.
so I think that's what it's showing, right? The interior is the wood looking and the exterior
Correct.
is
The interior will be wood regardless,
Yeah.
okay.
and it's
Yeah.
just
So,
talking about
yeah.
the exterior.
I
So I just
believe these
wanted
are
to
the
note
windows that are
that-
there.
Yeah.
These are the ones that are there.
Yeah, so they're actually not true wood windows. So if you wanted to amend your motion to, if you all are okay with that, with aluminum wood clad
Yeah,
windows.
Yes.
I'll do my best if I can
So
remember all
my,
this.
my question before we move on, Damon, so we are okay with him keeping, even though it is on the historic main house, the side door is to be okay to remain as fiberglass.
Yeah, that's
I
what I
thought we
said.
were wanting to not allow it on the historic contributing property.
Yeah, I mean, I intentionally made the motion that way. We can discuss it,
Okay,
but
no, I just want to make sure.
yeah, I mean, and if that's a point of contention, maybe we should discuss it as part of the discussion, and we could vote down the motion. But I mean, I don't know. I think this
I
whole
can go either way.
yeah. All right.
I just
I'm gonna
wanted to make
try-
sure.
Yeah, understood. I'm gonna try a motion. You guys feel free to help me out. Okay, this is Damon Turner, Greg, and I'm motioning that we accept the plans as they are with some updates. The windows on the duplex should specify that they are wood-clad windows. And we are going to accept that the 4 doors on the rear duplex are painted fiberglass. And for the main house, there are 2 doors of interest. So we're accepting the plans as they are, with the exception that we'd like the main house front door to be replaced with a wood or wood-clad 6-light Craftsman style front door. And that also implies that we're accepting the plans that show the main house has a side door that is a 6-light fiberglass painted door. And that's an exception that we will accept.
Right. So we have a motion. I think that does cover everything that I had in my brain, which is feeble. We need a second.
This is Rachel Sarah, I second.
Okay, so we have a second. Do we have some discussion?
I think this is where we would discuss, Rachel, if we're setting a precedent we don't want to set by allowing the side door to be fiberglass, painted fiberglass.
Well,
Right.
and let me comment on that. It's going to be painted. I mean, why do you want to spend the money on fiberglass then?
I think we should also, I think part of the discussion and why we are accepting this is because it is not the main door of the house and it is not facing the street.
Okay.
I know that doesn't disqualify it, but it does make it less visible and less prominent.
Yeah, that was my thinking as well.
Okay, and that's now in the record. I mean, we're recorded, and
Yeah.
maybe we can pose on Greg to include that in the LAR side notes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by stating your name and saying yay. Jim Glock, yay.
Damon, aye.
Rachel, I.
Greg, I.
Lou, you still with us?
He's still here.
Well,
He's on.
We've got a
He's on
majority,
he's
We've got
on
a
mute right
majority.
now. He's on mute right now.
but we do have a majority with the 4 votes.
So, okay. So we'll call I don't know how I handle this from a parliamentary perspective, but we'll say Lou is absent during roll call. So it is passed. Thank you, sir, for enduring our historic review process. I'll
Thank
tell you,
you.
it's important to all of us who enjoy the tax benefit, and
I am
also
sorry,
enjoy-
Jim. I had us muted on 2 buttons, but I did say aye.
Okay, very good. So we have a unanimous approval by the board members present. Again, I want to thank our applicant for enduring our consternation over this. Again, it's and others can chime in. While this is arduous process, and we appreciate your going through it, it's important to the neighborhood and it's important to our standing. And we're unique. We're one of the 6 neighborhoods amongst the many, many more historic neighborhood districts that have underlying historic zoning. And that's why we have to ask folks to go through this extra step. And
No, I
we
understand.
appreciate your patience and endurance as you've gone through it. And you've done a great job in presenting your material. And welcome to the neighborhood. Just
you.
a sidebar, and I don't mind putting this on the record. But do go to the West University Neighborhood Association website and sign up for the listserv, and you'll hear all about all the fun stuff that we do around the neighborhood. So,
All right. And just as a quick aside, I want to thank you guys because it was actually through listening to playbacks of the meetings that there was concern about the new purchase of the properties. I want to thank you guys for calling that out, being cognizant of it. So thank you.
Hey.
Opened up a lot of things for us.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, board members. We're going to be moving on to item 5, the West University Historic Preservation Zone Design Guidelines. I think before we start publishing, we have some final review and next steps that need to occur. I don't know if Desiree and Michael can tell us whether all that has occurred. And I did see some email traffic about one section of our guidelines that reference some Tucson or some building codes that may not be an appropriate reference. So if you happen to know that detail, it might be beneficial for board members to know that. And then if so, we got to amend that and bring it back through the whole process. In my opinion, but maybe Rick knows better. So this is really Rick's baby. And I don't mind if it's the pleasure of the board, since we are moving on a bit to.
Well, did we
Goes to
ever
a meeting where
finish
he's
the
around.
review with PRS? Did they complete the review? Because last I saw, they had come up short, and then it was bumped from the agenda. So had they completed the PRS review? And then was that what predicated the chatter about some codes being updated? Because I've not seen it come back through in its comprehensive form back to us.
Okay.
So are we at that point, or is it still under discussion?
So, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So at this point in time, I believe that PRS had completed its review of this. What we thought would be a nice thing to do for all the advisory board design guidelines, because the historic preservation officer just got here, we think that it would be a good idea for her to take a look at all the design guidelines, make her own suggestions. So if there are certain issues that needs to be resolved, we can come back to the different advisory board with what staff feels needs to be resolved at that time before we move this forward. Once she has done that, in your particular case, in the case of West University, once she has finished with her review of that and does not find anything substantial that needs for your board to do anything about it, the process is very simple. It will move down to the next step where she will make a recommendation to a director. The director will then forward it to the city manager. The city manager will then put in for the city clerk, and it will be put on mayor and council agenda for approval of the guidelines. So it's just taking a little bit of time. I know West University went first. Other advisory boards are behind you, and so we are just following this pattern. So that is where we are with the design guidelines now. We are keeping it on the.
Is that a recommendation or a requirement that we wait for all of the historic boards to be reviewed prior to moving forward?
It's not a requirement. Staff, we are saying
Thank
that
you.
it's not a requirement. I am saying that we got a new historic preservation officer. We are trying to give the historic preservation officer the time to review this. You have to understand the design guidelines are under the authority of the historic preservation officer. This was started with the former historic preservation officer, and then with a new preservation officer coming in at the time that these guidelines have not yet been submitted to mayor and council. We thought that it would be a good idea to allow her the chance to also have a look at it, because she's the one who is going to make the final recommendation to the Director of Planning and Development Services. And she cannot make that.
Understood. I was just looking for a timeline of the other historic groups. Have they all made a first blush with themselves and PRS yet?
Yes, they are. In fact, in fact, Fort Law is probably going to finish with their design guidelines inside this week. The Barrio has actually finished at their own level their design guidelines. So the 3 advisory board, their design guidelines are fit to go. We are not holding this years, waiting for the others. No, we're just giving the historic preservation officer the time to review them.
Yeah, and I'll
Thank
just
you.
add that
Just looking.
Basically, I know other staff have reviewed this, so it's really just kind of one final review before we make a final recommendation. But if there's, I guess just for my own understanding, this body has already reviewed it. You don't feel the need to bring it back. Is that correct?
Not correct in my stance.
Yeah,
I've not seen the
I don't
edits
know.
from PRS in the aggregate.
Yeah, I'd like to see the edits. I don't know that it needs to be a full crazy back and forth discussion, but I think it would be good for us to see those edits before we say yes or no. And then I don't think the question was answered on, there was like a code reference that was incorrect.
So Bill Mackey sent an email to me because he designed my carport and knows that I'm on WUZAB, and just verified what our current design standards were. I sent him the link to our current design standards, and I gave him a copy of our draft, letting him know it was draft. And he indicated that we have, under design guidelines B, secondary buildings and structures, site design, item 2 of the link text, section 6C, secondary building structural design, item 2. Anyway, goes on. Additional dwelling units should not dominate the main residence. City code requires it second, and then it references city code, UDC 66.3D, and it turns out 663.3D is not the appropriate reference. And so in some respects, what Bill was suggesting, and to the extent that we can avoid referencing changing UDC nomenclature, that we articulate it somewhat differently. And so I think he's talked to city staff about that, and so this may kick it back for us to need to amend, to address. And I it's a complicated world, it's a complicated code, and I think it's to the extent that we cannot send people off somewhere else on to another code.
Yeah,
and
I think it would be better to
better.
take out that
They're
reference.
better. So anyway, when Rick gets back in the country and he sees this email and stuff, maybe we can get this remedied. But
Yeah,
we're,
can you send that, Jim? Would you mind? I've worked with Bill for a number of years too. If
Yeah,
you wouldn't
yeah.
mind
Oh.
sending it to me, I wouldn't mind
Great.
trying to figure out which code it is.
I'll
Hey
see.
guys, can I ask a question? Because I kind of had a question on this subject too. And I think what that is, the not dominate the main structure, I think is makes sense. I think everybody would agree with that. I think the other reference, if I'm not mistaken, and I wanted to ask, I think Rachel or Desiree or Michael will know this, but I think the other reference used to be to a piece of UDC code that said accessory structures should be 12 feet or less. Is that true?
Well, it's not under the new state law.
No, I understand. I just want to know what it
Okay,
used to.
sorry.
That's a good question. Generally, I try to avoid calling anything a secondary structure. It's specifically working with the historic stuff because there's so few contributing secondary structures to use as precedent. So
Yeah. So when
if I have somebody coming through with a project like that, we generally try to call it a second residence. So it's not a primary versus secondary. So it's kind of all semantics.
So the reason I think that to be true is, the way I ended up on this board was I built my workshop and had to go through this board to get it approved. And I was subject to a 12-foot height restriction on that because it is a true accessory structure. It wasn't being built as a secondary residence.
A second, yeah.
Yeah, and I made an argument to allow 14 feet because it was the same height as my existing guest house, which was obviously permitted and much, much shorter than the contributing structure. And the board at the time accepted that. So that's what I recall as the requirement for accessory or secondary structures. And I think that was the language in the design guide that was referring to that. But I think all of that has changed. And that's why I agree with Bill that it should be removed.
Yeah, I agree also.
Yeah, but I do think that there is something that we should talk about as a board, which is, how to kind of make these judgments about whether or not, I'll just say additional structures that are not the main structure, how they may or may not compete with the main structure. And I mean, so far, the architects that have come through and proposed relatively tall secondary structures have done a good job in making sure it doesn't compete with the main structure. And most of that's because they're architects that are very familiar with this board. But we are starting to see a lot more very tall secondary structures. One of them came through today. One of them came through, I don't know, it was either last time or 2 times ago, and it was on, what would that have been, 2nd Street, just east of 4th Avenue. And so I think we need to decide as a board how we make those calls because eventually somebody's going to come through with something that kind of dominates. And we need to know how to we need to know the difference. And so I think
that our guidelines are pretty clear in that if there is a contributing property or building on a property, that it needs to remain the dominant thing. So if you propose a second residence where you have a contributing property, whether the heights or whatever's going on, it still needs to be lower than your main house or something along those lines.
Yeah, but I think there's more to dominating than just height, right? Like there's massing and other things.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is our guidelines kind of cover all of that. I would think so.
I know what you're saying, but what I'm saying is I think the rest of us need a little guidance from someone like you on that. Because I don't know, other than, us just using our untrained judgment, that the rest of that can judge that like an architect can.
Yeah, well, then I think that's maybe something, once we get the comments back from PRS, maybe that's something we specifically look at and that specific section and how we want to make sure that wording is clear and not referencing outdated code.
Yeah, agreed.
And the only comment I would have, this new ADU state mandate is, and the fact that we have underlying historic zoning, Desiree, you need to kind of worm into that and find out where the two lines lie with respect to what we can ask for and what we're superseded by asking for. So
Yeah, we
Mm,
can
right.
bring that to you at a future meeting if you'd like. We are going to be talking a little bit about it tomorrow at the full commission
Sure.
meeting. But yeah, we could do like a
Yeah,
little bit more
well,
in-depth presentation if you'd like.
And maybe the full commission meeting record can suffice for us, so I don't need to take extra time out of you. And if you could just reference the minutes of the full, you know, how full commission meetings last hours and hours, just tell us the periods of time in the meeting that we should maybe listen in, that would suffice. So
Sure.
anyway, well, anyway, this is Rick and I are both working on this. We are looking to get it formatted in a very friendly way, and we have a budget to do so, and we're talking to some folks, wink, wink, Rachel, but to get that done. And with that, I'm going to move on to item 6, staff updates. Listen, guys, you get all of 3 minutes to talk about your new video because I want to
Sure.
cut down. Well, actually, you know, we like to keep these minutes under 2 hours, but I'd like to let everyone out early as possible. So
Yeah, and
item
we
6
won't.
is new video, plan review and permit application process overview.
Yes, and we won't take long. Basically, at a previous meeting, you all had asked for a presentation on our minor review process and kind of the, Tucson Development Center online process. So what we actually did, instead of doing kind of a one-off presentation, we created a video and we put it on our main historic preservation landing page. So I'm not going to play it for you, but you all can have the link. So if you want to watch it, or if you want to, share this, neighbors, applicants, right, as a resource. Basically, we just wanted to let you know that it is here.
Oh, all right, you did it. Thank
I
you.
have a question. Hold on before we move on. Is that just
Um,
about minor reviews or also courtesy reviews? Because I think that was a big question, was courtesy reviews also.
Yes, good question. We do also mention how to sign up for a courtesy review in the
Okay,
video.
thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, board members. Thank you for tolerating my chairmanship in Rick's absence. Are there any particular items that the board members may have for a future agenda item beyond what we've already burdened staff with? I think we've asked for a couple things, but hearing none, I will call this meeting adjourned at 7:45 p.m. June 10th. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Damon in particular. Thank you, Ben, for hanging in there and listening in on the whole thing. Thank you, staff members and other board members for attending. And we'll see you next month via
Thanks.
Zoom.
So.
I will be hopefully in Idaho, but I'll still be attending. So we'll see you guys.